Hi, and welcome to the NFL Fan Forum. My name is Art, aka the Sea Cow, and this is my sidekick John, aka the Cowlick.
What's up?
Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to talk about the AFC North. But first, our play of the day.
7 seconds left. Tannehill will throw it, and this will end it after the shovel, or will it? Miami running around, circling. Oh, look out! Gronkowski didn't have the angle. Touchdown! Oh, Kenyon Drake! A miracle!
First, we're going to talk about the Baltimore Ravens. Coach John Harbaugh leads this team. He's won a Super Bowl with them before. This team has been so good for many years. He's going to have to step up and stick with his game plan of run-first philosophy with quarterback Lamar Jackson and the running backs, and not to overthink those big games in the playoffs. That's, I think, what did him in last year. Is I think he outthought himself. This team had the best record last year at 14-2, but that will be difficult to do again. They will have to hit the ground running starting in Week 1 against the Browns. League MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson is the leader of this offense. But can he achieve the numbers he had last year? What do you think?
I think he can. It's just that I have a feeling inside of me that they could possibly step down a bit this year, like how the Rams did this year. So I'm a bit worried about that because I had that feeling that that could happen. So we don't need that to happen. But I'm pretty sure Lamar Jackson can be possibly even better than last year and possibly put up better numbers.
He did have 36 passing touchdowns versus only 6 interceptions, along with 7 rushing touchdowns. Those are some really good numbers. Behind him, he's got really good running backs in Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards, along with the rookie J.K. Dobbins. The Ohio State rookie should have a really good year following Mark Ingram to lead this best rushing attack from last year. Looking at the wide receiver group, it's a pretty good veteran group here. Definitely like Marquise Brown. Willie Snead and Miles Boykin should be good compliments for Lamar Jackson again. And of course, tight end Mark Andrews, the old veteran. This offense should really be a good offense again. What do you think of Marquise Brown?
I mean, I like him. He kind of had a down year this year, and he was okay. I didn't really like what I saw. I did like when he caught that long pass from Lamar Jackson on the first week against the Miami Dolphins, but after that, I didn't like what I saw. He's a speedster, but I don't like what I saw. But I did like to see him work out with Jerry Jeudy, and after seeing him work out, he's a pretty tough guy. I'm excited to see him on the field this year, and hopefully he can step up. But then the other wide receivers, Willie Snead and Miles Boykin, I don't know anything about. But Willie Snead I know a little bit about, and I've heard that he's pretty good. Miles Boykin, I don't know anything about, but if these Ravens wide receivers can step up this year, I think this offense can be pretty scary.
Yeah, I agree. I think these wide receivers are going to do just fine with Lamar Jackson this year. Getting to the offensive line, we have a lot of things happening here. Marshall Yanda retired. He was definitely a big, important captain for the offense. And the opting out of Andre Smith was a big deal as well. In fact, they were almost going to lose Matt Skura, but it looks like he's going to stick around, even though they just had their baby boy. That's really good for the offensive line. Otherwise, there could have been a lot of transition problems at the offensive line position. Turning to the defensive side of the ball, the defensive line has a lot of veteran experience, with nose tackle Brandon Williams to stuff the run, and former Bronco Derek Wolfe and former Jaguar Calais Campbell at defensive end to attack the quarterback. This looks to be a really good group. What do you think?
Looks pretty good to me. I mean, I know who Derek Wolfe is because he came from the Broncos. I wish we didn't have to give him up. I miss him already, but it is what it is. I don't know who Brandon Williams is, though. Calais Campbell, I know who he is. He played for the Jaguars when they had that amazing run all the way to the AFC Championship back in 2018. I think this can be a pretty good defensive line. I don't know who Brandon Williams is, but I'm guessing he's pretty good, judging that he is the starter. So we'll see what happens.
They will be helped by a linebacking core led by veterans Matthew Juden and L.J. Fort, where Juden had 9.5 sacks last year. The other spots are manned by second-year pro Jalen Ferguson and rookie first-round pick Patrick Queen. What does Queen bring to this Ravens defense?
I think he brings a lot, in my opinion. He's from LSU, and he was in the championship with Joe Burrow, and they won the championship. And Patrick Queen, he's a pretty good linebacker, in my opinion. And I'm pretty sure he can get to the quarterback a lot, and I'm actually very excited to watch this young player grow and possibly become something really great.
Moving to the secondary, I think this is the strength of the defense. This group is led by cornerbacks Marlon Humphrey and former Chief Marcus Peters. Behind them are all-pro safety Earl Thomas and Chuck Clark. With 11 picks and strong pass defense skills, this is a formidable back end. Do you think this is a top 10 group?
I think it is. Like, looking at Marcus Peters, I remember him. My Broncos used to face him when we played the Chiefs, and I'm actually kind of glad that he's with another team now, like Baltimore. Earl Thomas, I know him because of the Seahawks, and he was a really great player for the Seahawks, and it's too bad that he's not going to be playing for that team anymore, for the Seahawks anymore. Marlon Humphrey, I know him. He's I feel like he's a rising star in my opinion. He's actually showing that he can get after the ball, make plays, and make interceptions. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play. And Chuck Clark, I don't know much about him, but I feel like he can be a great safety. So yeah, this secondary looks pretty scary in my opinion.
So let's move on to the predictions for this team. Looking at the schedule, in my opinion, I think they're going to go 13-3. It's a little bit tougher schedule this time, but I still think they go 13-3 and they win the division. What do you think?
I think they're going to go 12-4, and I also think they're going to win the division. You got a really scary offense with Lamar Jackson, and you got a very scary defense with my guy Derek Wolfe. So I think they can be a 12-4 team, and they're going to win the division.
So that'll do it for our Baltimore Ravens segment. Let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals. Head coach Zach Taylor comes over from the Rams offensive coaching group, and with this team, he has nowhere else to go but up. Last year, they only went 2-14. His high-powered offensive scheme should really help first-round pick Joe Burrow in this offense. What do you think of Joe Burrow?
I think he's a pretty good quarterback in my opinion. Like, I hear people comparing him to not Lamar Jackson, but Patrick Mahomes, which is a lot to hear. And I don't know if he's going to become the next Patrick Mahomes, but he's going to be a good quarterback.
At the running back position, it's led by Joe Mixon. He should help take pressure off of Joe Burrow in his rookie season. He had 1,100 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's also backed up by Giovanni Bernard. He's another good back when he's healthy. What do you think of this running game?
Looks pretty solid to me. Like Joe Mixon, he had another 1,000-yard season, and I have a feeling this guy is going to become a really great running back for them for years to come. But Giovanni Bernard, he's also very good. He's a veteran, and if Joe Mixon gets injured, they're also going to have another great running back in Bernard. So I think the running back class looks pretty solid for the Bengals.
Getting to the receivers, they are led by veteran A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd. Both of them are really talented receivers. Boyd had a super year last year. I think he's starting to break out. But now they've got this rookie from Clemson, T. Higgins, in the second round. How good do you think he can be?
T. Higgins, I like the way how he plays. He plays a lot like Courtland Sutton, but he's like very tall too. He's a tall wide receiver. He can get after the ball, and he's a great blocker too. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play this year.
Yeah, if A.J. Green can just stay healthy, I think that this wide receiver group will really be good for Joe Burrow this year. Their offensive line looks very young, some really good players, but they're just going to have to really get to know each other in a shortened COVID training camp. So if they're going to protect Joe Burrow, they're going to have to really work on that. Moving over to the defensive side, The line is led by veterans Carlos Dunlap and Geno Atkins, who have a decade of service with the Bengals. They are joined by young up-and-comer Sam Hubbard, who had 8.5 sacks. An off-season acquisition, DJ Reader from the Texans. At 350 pounds, he's a good run stuffer. Do you think he can help this unit stop the run?
I think he can. Like, he's a big guy, and I've heard that he can stop the run very well. And he's pretty hard to stop, so I think this can be good against Baltimore or any other team that they face. So I don't know anybody else other than DJ Reader, but I think this defensive line can be pretty solid in my opinion.
Over at linebacker, veteran Josh Bynes finds himself leading a young linebacker core with second-year man Jermaine Pratt and rookie third-rounder Logan Wilson from Wyoming. This unit seems to be a work in progress with some growing pains coming this year. How much can we expect from these guys?
Well, I expect them to do a lot, but I don't know any of these guys. But if they're the stars, they should be good. So, yeah, they're probably going to have some growing pains this year.
In the secondary, news has come out that cornerback Trey Waynes, who was just acquired from the Vikings after signing a 3-year deal, looks like he's going to be out for at least 2 months with a pectoral injury. How significant is this loss to the team?
I think it's a huge loss in my opinion. I mean, I've heard a little bit about him, but not a lot. But I've heard that he's pretty good, and that to lose him is a heck of a loss. It says here Mackenzie Alexander. He's gonna have to step up. Since he's the backup to Trey Waynes, he's gonna have to step up this year. A lot of the Bengals corners are gonna have to really step up this year if they want to possibly make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. They're gonna have to really step up at the cornerback position to help out safeties Von Bell and Jesse Bates. So let's move on to the predictions for this team. Looking at the schedule and knowing that they've still got some questionable parts, some injuries, and some young talent that is just going to start this year, I'm looking at them to make a 4-12 record this year, but next year a lot better. What do you think?
I think they're gonna go 5-11, and I think they're gonna finish last, in my opinion. But next year, I see them making the playoffs. They have to be competitive and show who they are this year, so that way they can show everybody that they are prepared for the playoffs next year. I don't see them making it this year, but I see them making it next year.
So that's our take on the Cincinnati Bengals. Let's go ahead and move on to the Cleveland Browns. First-year head coach Kevin Stefanski brings a new offense over from the Vikings. He has a young quarterback going into his third year in Baker Mayfield. How do you think Baker Mayfield's going to do this year?
I think he's going to do decent like last year. Like last year, he had 22 touchdowns and 21 interceptions, which is not very good. But this year, I still don't see him make a huge difference for this team. But they have Odell Beckham Jr. They have Jarvis Landry. And he hasn't been getting along with OBJ recently. And I don't see him really making a difference. I think he's going to be just as good as last year. I think he's going to be the same as last year.
I also noticed that backup Case Keenum is there. You know something about him, don't you?
Yeah, because he played for the Broncos. He's a decent quarterback, just like Baker Mayfield. He's a good backup, but I don't know how well he would do in Browns land, because if Baker Mayfield gets injured, Case Keenum is going to have to start and have to get used to his new players and have to gel with them.
One blessing that Baker Mayfield does have is he has some talented running backs behind him. You look at Nick Chubb and you look at Kareem Hunt, that two-headed monster looks dangerous, to say the least. What do you think?
I mean, I think it's pretty dangerous in my opinion. Nick Chubb, he went to the Pro Bowl. I'm looking forward to see him play. He is an amazing running back. Kareem Hunt, I know him from Kansas City. I've had to face him twice a year. He's also a really beastie running back. And this is, in my opinion, one of the best running back duos in the NFL. But I'm looking forward to see these two play.
At the wide receiver position, we've got veterans Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry, of course. Obviously, they always like to have the big plays whenever possible. Hopefully, Baker Mayfield can produce those numbers. What's your take on this wide receiver group, though?
It's decent. I know you have OBJ and Jarvis Landry. They're very good wide receivers. But then their third wide receiver, Rashard Higgins, and I do not know anything about him. In my opinion, I think they should put in Donovan Peoples-Jones, even though he's a young guy. Somebody actually rated him as the 10th best wide receiver. And I've seen his highlights from Michigan. He's a very good wide receiver, in my opinion. And I'm surprised he fell into the 6th round. And I feel like Donovan, he can replace Rashard Higgins, but it might be too soon to say that.
At tight end, they brought over Austin Hooper from Atlanta, and he's a good pickup to join David Njoku. That should be a solid group. But as for the offensive line, there's some good veterans there, it looks like. You got J.C. Treader and Jack Conklin. But I'm really curious about how this Jedrick Wills is going to do. What's your opinion?
I think he can do pretty well. Like, he was the 10th overall pick, and I think they got great value there. He had really great highlights from Alabama. I have high confidence for this guy, and I think he can protect Baker Mayfield pretty well against the run, and you never know, he could be a great offensive lineman for years to come.
Yeah, if they can stop the pass rush of opposing defenses, it can only help Baker Mayfield get some time, make his throws. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, on defensive line, we've got Myles Garrett and Sheldon Richardson, Olivier Vernon, Adrian Claiborne. I say those names because they're veterans and they're really good at getting after the quarterback. Even Larry Ogunjobi is very good. But how good is Myles Garrett?
Myles Garrett, he's very good. I think he might be just as good as Von Miller. That's how good he is. And he also could be Defensive Player of the Year. He's a very talented pass rusher. It's too bad he got ejected because of that penalty he got against Rudolph, but we won't talk about that. But Myles Garrett, he's pretty good. Sheldon Richardson, I know him because he played for the Seahawks. But then the rest, I don't know anybody else, but it looks like this pass rush could be decent this year.
The linebackers are led by second-year man Mack Wilson from Alabama. He had a pretty decent year last year. This is a real question mark, though, on the defense because they are such an unproven group. We'll just have to see who steps up. The secondary is led by cornerbacks Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams, along with safeties Carl Joseph and Grant Delpit. He's a second-round pick from LSU. To me, this looks like a very young group that needs to gel quickly for this season. What do you see?
I see a lot of talent. That's what I see. Denzel Ward, he's from OSU. He's a really great corner. He's amazing. I think he has a lot of talent and a lot to prove. I think he might have a breakout year this year too. Carl Joseph, I don't know much about him. I don't know anything about him actually. Grant Delpit, I know he's a rookie. He's from LSU. He's also a really good player, and I'm surprised he fell into the 2nd round. So I'm excited to see him play. And Greedy Williams, I don't know much about him, but I think this secondary can be very scary for opposing teams.
So let's move on to the predictions for the Browns this year. From what I'm seeing from the schedule, it's a pretty difficult schedule, not too terrible, and there's a lot of talent on this team as well. Again, it's going to come down to how well Baker Mayfield does, learning Kevin Stefanski's system. From what I'm seeing, though, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt with all this talent, and I'm going to give him a 9-7 record this year, but a better record next year. What do you think?
I have them going 8-8, and that's pretty good in my opinion. They might do better next year, but it's just that this offseason, it's going to be hard to gel in with the team with this crazy offseason we're going through. So I have a feeling they're going to go 8-8 this year, but they might make a playoff run next year. You never know, but I see them going 8-8 this year.
So let's move on from the Browns and head over to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Coach Mike Tomlin is looking to rebound from a poor showing last year with 8-8 record. Again, it's because Ben Roethlisberger got injured early against the Seahawks. And again, their quarterback situation hasn't changed much from last year. You still got Mason Rudolph, Devlin Hodges, guys that are unproven and shown a little bit of flashes of talent, but they're not Ben Roethlisberger. I think this team is definitely going to be a so-so team this year. And if Ben Roethlisberger doesn't stay healthy, I think Mike Tomlin could be looking for a new quarterback next year. What do you think?
I think so too. Ben Roethlisberger, he has a lot of injury concerns. He's been injured a lot in his career. But if he gets injured again this year, then it's back to Mason Rudolph once again. And it could be another collapse season like last year. So there's a lot of talent on this team, but if Ben Roethlisberger gets injured, then there could be some major issues going on with this team.
In the rushing game, running back James Conner, he's back from injury from last year. And from the looks of it, he's looking very healthy at this time, and that's great news for Steelers fans. He needs to step up for this Steeler rushing attack. And if he doesn't, I think Ben's in for a long season. What do you think?
I think so too. James Conner, I don't know much about the guy, but I think I should, because last year, or the year before last year, he had 1,000 yards rushing, and then last year he got injured. So I guess the big thing is for him to stay healthy, and if he can do that, then this team could be very competitive and possibly make a playoff run this year. But that is if Ben Roethlisberger and James Conner can stay healthy.
Wide receivers are led by Juju Smith-Schuster, James Washington, and Deontay Johnson. This crew looks like a pretty talented young group to me. If Ben can just stay healthy. What do you think of this group?
I think it's pretty gosh dang good. I don't know much about Deontay Johnson. James Washington, I know a little bit about. He's pretty good. Juju Smith-Schuster, I know a lot about. He had a down year last year, but this year, I feel like he can make a comeback. That is if Ben Roethlisberger can stay healthy. But if, in case one of these wide receivers get injured, they have a really good backup wide receiver in Chase Claypool, who they got this year, and I'm excited to see this guy play. He can play tight end and wide receiver, so I'm looking forward to see him play. I think this wide receiver group is going to be pretty competitive this year.
Yeah, I have to agree with that assessment of Chase Claypool. He looks like a good, solid, tall, big target. They need that kind of target because they got a lot of small guys in the group. But getting over to the tight ends, Eric Ebron and Vance McDonald are over there. And these are two good veterans for the tight end group. Shouldn't be any problems there. And it's just going to come down to the offensive line. If they can stay healthy, they're going to protect Ben. And they're a very veteran group. The Alejandro Villanuevas, the Stefan Wisniewski's, the Marquise Pouncey guys, David DeCastro. I mean, all these guys are really tough, hard-nosed offensive linemen. And I think this offense could be real dangerous this year as long as they can stay healthy. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, the defensive line it's going to be a little bit in transition. Dan McCullers takes over for the departed Javon Hargrave. He was a stalwart on that defensive line, stuffing the middle. But McCullers is such a big guy, I could see him being a very good run stuffer himself. Flanked by Stephen Tuitt and Cameron Hayward. All these guys were Pittsburgh guys. They were all drafted at different times by the Steelers. And they have really stepped up over the years and joined together and been a very tight group. I like this defensive line. Over at linebackers, we have a really talented group here, led by T.J. Watt and Bud Dupree. They had pretty much like 25 sacks between them last year, and that's just outstanding. But this group looks really good. Devin Bush and Vince Williams rounded out. The loss of Mark Barone is a loss, but I really think that Vince Williams is going to step up and do a good job for them. What do you think of this group?
I think it's pretty gosh dang good. Like, there's T.J. Watt, who is J.J. Watt's brother, who is very talented. Vince Williams, I don't know much about him. Devin Bush, I've heard a little bit about him. He's pretty good. And Bud Dupree, I don't know much about him, but when I looked at him, apparently he has 11.5 sacks. So, I guess that's pretty good. And he was a first overall pick. So, I think I should know him, but I don't. So, I think this pass rush can be very scary this year.
This secondary is also very good. They're led by cornerback Joe Hayden and safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, formerly from the Dolphins. How good do you think these guys are?
I think they're very good in my opinion. Joe Hayden, I know a little bit about. He's very talented and he looks very promising. Terrell Edmonds, I don't know much about. Minkah Fitzpatrick, he's very talented. I don't know why the Dolphins decided to trade him, but he's very talented. And Steven Nelson, I also don't know much about. But this secondary, it looks very scary with Minkah Fitzpatrick mainly.
Yeah, if I had to say, I would think this is a top 10 secondary group for this year. Very talented players. So let's move on to our predictions for this team. Looking at the Steelers' schedule, again, it's all about Ben staying healthy and, of course, everybody else, but mainly Ben. And from what I see, I'm looking at a 10-6 team with a good chance at the playoffs. And this could be a very dangerous team as well. What do you think?
I have them going 11-5, and I also have them as a playoff team. I really think they can be a scary team. That is, if Ben Roethlisberger can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, this is an 11-5 team. If Ben Roethlisberger can stay healthy, then this is about like between a 10-6 and an 8-8 team. But if Ben Roethlisberger can stay healthy, I'm pretty sure nobody's going to want to face this team this year.
So that does it for our analysis of the AFC North today. We have the Ravens winning the division, and then we have Pittsburgh most likely making the playoffs as a wild card. Tell us what you think in the comments section below. Be sure to destroy that like button and subscribe to our channel. By the way, turn on the notification bell for future uploads. Thank you for tuning in today. This is Art
And John.
signing off.